to Talk About TV, where we talk about all things experiential hospitality. I'm your host, Michelle Oliver, and today's conversation is part of a series with the members of the Experiential Experts Alliance. This alliance is made up of individuals who have spent many, many decades working in hospitality from every angle, everything from purchasing RV resorts, from boutique hotels, marinas, people who work in lending, management companies, the list goes on and on. I know that you are going to gain a lot of insight and information from these remarkable individuals, and I welcome you to this entire series of the Experiential Experts Alliance. Okay. I'm delighted to be here today with Chris Hipple of Leavitt Recreation and Hospitality Insurance. Did I get it right? It is a pretty long name.
It's a mouthful.
It says it all. It says it all. So
we just generally go by Leavitt Rec, so you can use that.
Okay, Leavitt Rec. And he just goes by Chris, which makes it even easier. You can just call him Chris, right? And so basically he is insuring recreational and hospitality properties. And this is such a significantly important topic that everyone needs to learn more about and have the right person behind them. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, very excited. Would you just take a few minutes and share a little bit about what you do, and then even more importantly, why you have chosen this particular industry and this particular niche?
Sure. The agency has been around for over 30 years under various names. It was originally the Jim Calfee Agency, and Jim formed it specifically to serve the needs of the RV park and campground industry. And then it went on and got acquired, and then that agency got acquired, and so then we were brought into the Leavitt Group fold. So Leavitt is probably the 12th largest broker of insurance in the United States, with over 150 agencies across the country, and everyone operates their own shop, but Leavitt is the commonality. So they provide us all our back office support. So I have the resources of a over $3 billion company, but
Wow.
we're a small hometown agency based in Sturgis, South Dakota. But we've got producers all over the country. So what do we do? What does this recreation and hospitality long name mean? Well, we primarily started off serving RV parks and campgrounds. And so now we're the largest insurer of RV parks and campgrounds, with over 5,000 of them insured nationwide. But we branched out also. So we are the endorsed provider for RVIC. We're the endorsed provider for the KOA Owners Association. And we're also the endorsed provider for the Dude Ranch Association. In addition, we write a lot of stuff. And pretty much if it's outdoorsy and weird, we will write it. So we write hunting lodges, resorts, fishing lodges, resorts. We do trail rides. We do, we do trail rides. We do axe throwing ranges. We do trampoline parks.
Yeah.
So again, if it's a challenge to get placed, it's something that generally fits in our wheelhouse. But if you got a shoe store, we wouldn't really know what to do with it.
A little bit of your backstory, if you would.
Okay, so I was working for a family business back in the day, and there was up to 7 of us working in a small hometown newspaper that the family had run for over 125 years. And so my grandfather was there, my dad, my uncle, several of my cousins, both of my brothers. And and I was the youngest of the generation. And if you've ever worked with family, you know that after a time, you just want to not work with family anymore. And so I went in and looked at what I wanted to do, and I decided I wanted to do insurance. And so I went to work for the local insurance agency that was probably one of the bigger ones in the town of my hometown, which is Pierre, South Dakota, except we pronounce it Pierre. So Pierre, South Dakota, the capital of the state of South Dakota. Population 15,000 if you're being generous.
Wow.
And so I went to work for the #1 insurance agency there, which means they had written most of the business in town already.
Sure.
So I had to get out and do something. And so my boss told me to focus on what you enjoy. And so I enjoyed hunting and fishing. And so I went out and started writing hunting lodges, and I got known throughout the area. in about a 3-state area of writing a bunch of hunting lodges. And in 2009, I had got headhunted by a group looking for someone to run an agency also in South Dakota, in Sturgis, South Dakota, that
Mm.
specialized in campgrounds. And
Wow.
so reviewed that for a while, came over and started on January 1st, 2010. And my first act was to close the office because of a snowstorm. So that was the first thing I did, was shut it down.
Oh my gosh.
So we came on board. There was 11 employees at that point in time, and we started growing and we started doing acquisitions and things. We acquired Evergreen, which was another competitor of ours. We acquired a couple other competitors, and today we're sitting here with 40 employees, and we've got 2 locations now: one in Sturgis, one in Somerset, which is closer to Rapid City, which is where I'm sitting now. And I've got 3 producers, which are your field agents, 3
Mhm.
producers based in Maine, 1 in North Carolina, 2 in Florida, 1 in Albuquerque, 1 in Cody, Wyoming, 1 in
Oh
Idaho
my,
Falls,
wow.
Idaho, and 1 outside of Portland. And so then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, including me, 5 in South Dakota.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
You are really good at what you do.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit, if you would, about, I know you've got some crazy stories, but what do people need to know that they don't know? And I know, no, I know that a lot of people come into these spaces not knowing a lot of things, because we run into this all the time. So it could be, you just hear, wow, RV resorts, great return on investment, and
Mhm.
everybody's doing it. And we can throw up some tents and turn it into something special. And it's a huge trending focus right now. So,
Between that and glamping, especially if you throw glamping in
yep,
there, it's massive. The amount of new business that's coming in. Probably the first thing that I'll say on that is, if you're going to start an RV resort or a glamping operation or whatever, especially an RV resort, you're going to want to have someone with experience, because usually what happens is the first 3 years are your on the job training, and you're going to make every mistake known to man at
yep,
that point in time. Unfortunately, the insurance companies that give the best rates know this, and so they're wanting someone with 3 years experience before they'll give the best rate, meaning
mm,
we may have to go to a different carrier that's going to offer higher rates for that. So if you're buying one as an investment and you're looking at hiring a manager, definitely get somebody with prior RV park management experience, or one of the management companies. There's a
yeah,
lot of good ones out there, because it will save you money. And then you're going to want to talk to somebody that knows more than how to just spell campground, and talk to them about the potential risks. The glamping ones are really interesting because there's always something very unique about them.
yeah,
And there's a concern, is this unique that's going to cost me money every year, or is it unique that is not? So had a call from a guy that was looking at putting up a bunch of glamping domes, and it was adjacent to a large canyon. And so that
mhm,
was the draw, was the
yep,
canyon being right there. And his concern was, well, am I going to have to put up fencing up there? And I'm like, no, you don't have to put up fencing with regards to that. But I did suggest putting up lights around there. They could even be low voltage solar or what have you. But the thing is, you don't want to just have a giant black pit in the middle of the night, because people tend to imbibe a little when they go out and have some fun out in the woods camping, or out in the going
yeah,
camping operation. Having a glass of wine or 2 or something like that could be a thing. And in this business, as when I was more of a Main Street agent doing Main Street business, I had 2 deaths in my book, and one was natural causes, and that one came, and gal called me, and I was never trained for this. You're not trained for somebody dying, you know.
right, of
And the
course.
first one was, the gal called me, so I want to tell you Harry died. And I go, oh my God, you're kidding. She says, why would I kid about something like that? And so I learned, first lesson is watch what you say when people call, because you don't know what they're going through. And then
Right.
the second one was where a person had gotten a car wreck, and their wife had died.
Mm,
So it's real serious, but those were the 2 that I'd had. Now in this industry, we have one every other year. somebody drowns, somebody gets a tree lands on them. So it's not a lot of industries, people are like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. And a lot of times they're looking to blame you because it was on your property. So, there's things that we recommend with regards to the various glamping or camping or RV park operations that are just smart. So,
Mm.
for example, the tree fall one, we had one and they did everything right. They had it inspected by an arborist. The arborist came through, they executed the plan that the arborist said they should do because they had lots of trees. So Saturday morning, no storm activity, tree falls over, lands on a tent and kills a kid because they're
Oh
down there.
my.
Parents were in the camper, there was a tent next to it. Um, the park ended up paying out $1 million of their liability, but the arborist paid $8 million. So there's things that if there would have been no arborist, they'd have been looking to the RV park for that larger.
Oh, how fascinating. To your point, the very thing that is the attraction for any property is almost always going to be the liability as well.
Mhm.
And yet, who you just how can you ever anticipate something like that? It's
Right.
impossible. So I'm sure with your experience, you have more of an eye for that. And especially if someone is really excited about this new business, we have these, all the trees and the river. The river is another one.
Mhm.
Rivers are a huge draw and a tremendous liability as well. But Chris can offer also perspective and help you think about things that maybe you just wouldn't think about. You're kind of in the vision right now of how much fun everyone is going to have and not necessarily thinking about the liability.
Yeah, my ex-wife always called me Mr. Worst Case Scenario.
What a
So
joy. Let's invite Chris to the party.
well, people do enjoy hearing about the claims that are out there and what happens. And I can tell funny claims and I can tell stupid claims. And I can tell the guy who, was trying to backed into a tree, with his camper and then said that our park owner put him in harm's way. It's like the whole place is full of trees. He put him in harm's way. So
Yeah.
some of them are funny and you get through them. And I got to talk to that guy and found out he not only ran into that tree, but he ran into something else with it. And he's like, I got to pay 2 deductibles on my sister's camper. I'm like, yeah, you do.
It
Don't
might be a you issue. It might not be
100%
the
was a
world
you issue.
around you. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The clients today, the clients that not our clients, but the park clients, the glamping clients, things like this, have gotten to have an expectation of almost unreasonable safety. So
Mhm.
you can't take the campground out of the campground. You want nature, but you're going to trip over a tree root. And then you're going to try and come back on the park owner and say, I tripped over a tree root. We had one gal take her dog out. The dog was not supposed to be off leash, took the dog off leash, let it run around in an area that specifically said there was, endangered plant species in this. You're not supposed to travel in it. The dog got bit by a rattlesnake and tried to sue my client for, the dog being bit and the treatment for the rattlesnake bite and everything else like this, even though it was against the rules, specifically not a place they were supposed to go, and so it doesn't seem to matter.
Yes, I mean, I like the way you say that about the campground because nature, just by virtue of being in nature, there are unpredictable everything. Everything is unpredictable. Um, but it's true. So we are very unreasonable as human beings, you know? This is why glamping exists because we want we want to feel like we're in nature and then come back and be pampered. We want the best of everything and we don't want any of the bad stuff. So it is really essential that people understand everything that you can share with them. What else would you like to share with everyone? Why do you love this? Tell us. I mean, it's kind of obvious to me, but what do you love most about what you do?
What I love most about what I do is when I get a chance to educate, when I get a chance to talk. I'm a talker, as you can obviously tell. I
Mhm.
like to tell stories and things like this. So when I go to KOA or RVIC, or I get on these Zoom calls, we did those during the pandemic. And I mean, they assigned me some tasks for calls. Like, I want you to do a topic on hope. I'm like, I'm an insurance guy. You really want me to be
Oh,
talking about hope? But I did, and it was one of the highest, because they have them score them afterwards.
that's
It's
so
one of the
great.
highest rated ones. And but that's probably my favorite thing. The second thing are the clients themselves, because 99 out of 100 are just really sweet people, and they tend to be a little lower tech. They tend to be, I'll just say, a little bit more redneck and country folk, and that's kind of my people. And so we get on, we start talking, and invariably, we deal with whatever business we're dealing with, but then just talking about their life, what's going on, and things like that. And so that really brings me joy during my day, is having
Yeah.
those moments. Because I was telling you, when we're getting on, I'm reading a 120-page affidavit on a lawsuit, and then I got to jump immediately into a claim that isn't quite going sideways yet, but is kind of teetering on the edge. That isn't really fun.
No, that is
so,
not the fun part.
so chatting with a client, and or a prospect even, and talking about what they're looking at doing, or their dreams and ambitions, and saying, you know, this might be something you want to pause on a little bit. This might be something that's really good, and just having conversations. So my calls on average with a new prospect tend to run a little longer than an hour.
I can totally see that.
Mhm.
And it's good business practice, honestly,
Mhm.
really to build that relationship. And I mean, you're in a really fun industry. So you're talking to people who like to be active and engage and do these things. My mind is still a little bit back on the hope talk that you gave. I think that's kind of it's hilarious because hope definitely is not a strategy when it comes to insurance.
Well, it was, I don't know why they picked me for that, but it
Because
was,
you're fun. You're
well,
hopeful. You
maybe,
do
but
have yeah.
I went through all the big natural disasters that have occurred in like the last 150 years, and then showed, what those places look like today, and there's no sign of anything.
Oh,
And
what a
basically said,
great thing to do. How interesting.
so the Chicago
I love
fire,
that.
things like that, and then look at, because that's fleeting, that's temporary. The power of the human spirit to overcome. We're not sitting here looking at areas that are completely devastated. 20, 30 years later, they've completely rebuilt, and you can't tell. Realistically, I mean, my hometown flooded back in the 50s, right next to the Missouri River, and people would paint inside their building. The water level was here, and they put a little sign there and do this stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. But other than that, there was not any. You couldn't tell anything.
Yes. How interesting. Well, it's so much about perspective, right? And that's what people do not have when they are filing a claim against your business. There
Well,
is no perspective.
and the
So
thing
that's,
is
yeah.
sometimes there's no perspective about it in the larger scheme of things. I've had people calling me panicking, and realistically, when we get down to it, they had damage, but they didn't really have much damage. So, I keep telling my folks all the time, the thing that you think is a nothing claim, a fender bender, $3,000 in damage, to that person, that is the most important thing that has happened probably
Yeah.
that year. My
Yeah.
sister-in-law called me, and she was gasping and sobbing on the phone. And I heard accident, and my blood ran cold, because I'm thinking somebody's dead, something's like this. Turns out the boat had popped off the hitch and punched a hole in the back of their Suburban. And I got mad at her. I'm like, you scared the heck out of me. This is no big deal. It'll be taken care of with a body man. And so for us, we're always looking at this and feeling like it might be, worst case scenario, somebody's dead, somebody's critically injured, somebody's got something like this. But this, the average claim is relatively benign. We
Yeah.
got some hail damage. We have a rock that hit by the mower through the window of the camper that was staying there, and they're mad as heck and yelling at you and blah blah blah. To us, it's like no big deal.
So fascinating, isn't it? Yes, and it's good that largely this is what we're experiencing, but We do have very high expectations, and we want, especially when it comes to pleasure and vacations, and it
And our
needs to be
children.
movie, yeah, quality. So this axe throwing thing that is so so popular right now. Okay,
Have you
so
done it?
no, I haven't done it. I've been to a networking event at one, but I was working the room, so yeah.
You should try it. My girlfriend tried it. She is a very girly girl and is not super athletic as far as stuff like that. I mean, she's in shape, she lifts, works out, does stuff like that. But she took this axe and just listened to the instructions and immediately threw a bullseye. I got it all on video too. But
Wow.
you know, uh, and those ranges aren't nearly as dangerous in terms of claims frequency as other things. You know, slip, trip, and fall is our number one claim. People
I
just
believe
trip
it.
over their big dumb feet.
Right, and it's
When we got our
because
we got
we
our cell phone, we got our cell
right,
phone sitting right here, and we're driving around or
yeah.
walking around. People, I've had people walk off embankments. I've had people walk into trees. All kinds of stuff because they got their nose buried in their phone.
Yes, and when you're throwing an axe, you're really paying attention to what you're doing. So
Mhm.
you're bringing your focus, and yeah, slip, trip, and fall. Absolutely true. Or you're, and this is the thing in the campgrounds, and I know the dude ranches. I had a property that was like that. People would be carrying their plates, and there's uneven ground, and that's where we literally would have staff standing around everyone assisting just
Right.
in case, because uh, just crazy stuff can happen in the really simple things. So
According to the engineers, a 3/4 inch difference in surface area is enough that there is to make people trip. So I don't know where it is specifically, but there's a video on YouTube and it's a really busy like subway area. And
mhm.
people are going upstairs and there's one step that's a 1/4 inch difference. And they just put a camera on that step and watch person after person after person trip. But when you get that, when you get like sidewalk heaving, and I'm sure you've been downtown and you're walking around, you see all the grind marks on the
Mhm.
sidewalks down there. That's where they're leveling everything off to eliminate that exposure.
Yeah, all the things we don't think about. We're just out doing our thing. Well, what other piece of advice would you like to share today, if anything? It's just so fun talking with you.
Piece of advice.
Yeah, piece of advice when
Okay,
you
I'm gonna go with this. Okay, so when you first start off and you buy your park, you've got a large debt usually. And so ensuring everything is going to be not only required by the bank, but it's smart practice for you because you have no equity. And then we go along and we operate and we get there. Now, usually what happens is when people start to taper off to get to the end of their career, they start deferring maintenance. They start deferring this and that. They start
mm,
looking at ways of cutting their insurance policies. And
so
so they'll
true.
delete buildings and they'll reduce coverage on this and that and the other thing. So when you're looking at a property and you're looking at acquiring a property, I would take the current policy's premium with a large grain of salt. And so what I do when I have somebody who's buying one of my clients' properties, I always tell them, hey, we'll get this bound for you and whatever requirements the bank put on there. But you and I are going to want to go through this line by line by line and make sure that everything, number one, is named what you want it called. Okay.
Mm,
So if it's the Buckaroo cabin, I'll get it on my system as the Buckaroo cabin. There's no question what we're talking about. And then secondly, make sure it's insured adequately and accurately for value. So I went and had a client of mine buy a property that had been around for a long time, and they had cabins all identical, and they were insured. Two or three or four of them were insured for 11,000, some for 15,000, some for 17,000, some for 20,000, and one or two for 24,000. They're identical. What was the difference? You could tell like rings on a tree when they were added. They cost 11,000 when we did this. They all should have been insured for that $24,000 number, but it never got updated. And so
wow.
little mistakes can creep in over time. And then the other thing would be probably just flip to the back of your policies and read the exclusions. It'll only take you 5 minutes. And the thing is, you can just look at the title. You don't need to look at the words. So if it says total animal exclusion, you might want to ask for explanation on that. If you want to see pool lifeguard exclusion, meaning if you don't have lifeguards, the pool is excluded. Just look through there real quick. Just flip. That's what I do every single time when I get a policy to review. I go to the back and work my way to the front.
That's great advice.
Mhm.
That's tremendous. And I would go so far as to say most people really don't. And when you're starting a new business or you'd think you'd be doing that due diligence, but there's a lot of stuff on your plate. And yeah, it's so really very comforting and hopeful to know that you are in the world, Chris.
Well,
And
thank you.
I know that you've helped a lot of people over time, and you're helping other people help more people. So it's just a multiplying kind of effect. And yeah, what were
Yep.
you going to say? Oh, that,
Just
okay. Do
listen.
you have any more stories for us?
I'll
Anything?
tell you my turtle story. Everybody's heard the turtle story.
Okay.
Have you heard the turtle story?
I don't know, but let's introduce it. So,
Okay, so gal's driving down the road. She is not a guest at our park, and she sees a turtle crossing the road. And so she doesn't want to get hit by a car. So she pulls over, picks up the turtle. It's a fairly big turtle. And she enters my client's property. And she's walking on a sidewalk with the turtle in front of her like this. And there was a heave about this big in the cement. And she trips, falls forward, breaks her nose on the turtle's back. Okay.
no, seriously, is this
Yep.
true? Oh my.
Yep. The turtle scampers off into the pond and is fine. And she has a broken nose, does not require surgery, does not require any hospitalization or time or anything else like this. She sues, it goes to court. The jury awards 1.5 million.
No way. That's unreal.
Yeah. So if you want to give yourself nightmares, Google social inflation. And social inflation is a
Wow.
term that insurance companies have come up to deal with social justice entering the jury pools. And so these people that are social justice warriors and they millennials tend to view corporations and large companies as evil or bad, and tend to believe that it's if it's just insurance money, it's no harm, no foul, nobody gets hurt, right? And so the
Oh
jury
my
awards are
gosh.
10x what they were 10 years ago. And the nuclear jury award, so nuclear jury award is where they really feel that you did something extreme. And so those are, well, look at it this way. I know of a $1 billion award that I read about. You've probably heard of, $100 million award. These are punitive awards that are done in what people feel are egregious situations. But the tying of any sort of award to what the actual injury was is gone.
That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
I
And
probably got more absurd things I could tell you, but
well, and yet I understand what you're saying, and it's a general trend in our world that is pretty disturbing, honestly. So that's the other side of what we were talking about, that nature is unpredictable. So that is logical thinking. What you just shared about the turtle is unreal. I can't even believe that could happen.
I am looking for somewhere to break
Wow.
my nose and collect a $1.5 million check.
On the back of a turtle. I've done that. I have stopped the car and helped a big turtle cross the road.
So have I. So have I. I've done it at least twice.
And what amazes me is that if that happened, that she would even not, she wouldn't just be embarrassed and get in her car and drive away. I mean, to actually sue it never would even enter my mind. So it's a mindset that
I
someone,
don't know if you've noticed, but the young folks today are a little different than when we were younger.
it's like someone else is responsible for What's
everything,
happening to me, right?
everything.
Everything.
Yep.
Crazy.
Well, it is what it is. Unfortunately, our clients and business owners are going to bear the brunt because as those claims increase, and we're in a very hard market right now. And
Yeah.
I've been in 3 hard markets in my life. And one was after 9/11. And I mean, I was an insurance agent, and we call them books of business. How many clients we have?
Mhm.
Half of them got cancellation notices. And what happened was my book actually grew because not only was I able to find replacement for those, but the other people that were out there that they got canceled as well. And I was able to find homes for those. But 9/11 was cancellation and rate increases because of fear.
Mm,
Insurance companies didn't know if we were going to get an attack every other week. And
right.
then in 2008, we had rate hikes and we had a big slowdown in the economy due to the Great Recession. And the insurance companies again acted, but it was because of fear of the market.
Hmm.
And they both recovered in a year and a half. This market is based on claims, and it's property and liability claims, and it's not going to go away.
Mm,
And so the pricing that we're seeing is going to be in for the long haul unless something changes on the back end. And I know that they're pushing these inherent risk for campground laws, and I've testified on 2 different states, and they've all passed so far. But the thing is, that changes nothing. What has to happen is over time that's either held up and defended, or the
right.
amount of the claims have reduced because the insurance company isn't going to go, oh, we got inherent law and we're going to cut our
Right.
prices in half. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, all of these things, it really does come in waves of fear. And so those of us who can hold on without that and go, let's go back to hope. And
Mhm.
again, it's perspective. It's where are your eyeballs? And so there are trip and slip and falls mentally that happen all the time in business. And it's really largely about not doing that, like looking at where you're going and how you can potentially get there. There's nothing. I loved when you were talking about like your hope story.
Mhm.
So, because that is nothing but perspective, being able to hold on to the vision and the truth of the future and take the actions that make sense for that, rather than just contracting and, oh my gosh, it's a complete catastrophe and all it really is a dent in your suburban, right? And
Well,
like, thank
the
you
thing
that
is
I have a
generally,
suburban.
yeah, generally speaking, when you run into difficulties in business, just taking a full defensive posture is the worst thing you can usually do.
Absolutely.
So you got to be proactive. If we're in an inflationary period, which we are, you know, everyone kind of expects the prices are going to go up. And
Mhm.
so, saying, well, I can't raise my prices, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, is probably not going to help you long term, because your internal expenses, from everything from water to electricity to supplies to insurance, are all going to increase because they have to, because otherwise you're eating into the profit margin. So your suppliers and your companies that are providing you whatever it is you need are taking increases. You are almost incumbent upon the safety of your own business to increase as well.
Yeah, and people, to your point, they tend to contract and look at where they can cut, when in fact it's time to expand, and it feels risky,
Mhm.
and you should be investing in your greatest assets, which I would argue are your people.
Oh yeah. So
Like,
I'll give you an example.
got
So
to.
we go into 2022, and the market is tight, in terms of insurance market. Rates are going up. I'm looking at $5 million of cancellations in terms of premium, from one company alone. There's another
Wow.
company has lost their market that we could access to go to place campgrounds. And so I've got that entire book that's going to be moving. It's because of loss ratio. And so what's going to happen is the prices are going to go up significantly on that book as well. So at the end of 2021, just when I was looking at it, I developed my SWOT analysis of it, and had various things I was going to do. And one, I was going to hire one producer. Okay, so one new agent that was going to come on board, get him trained up and get him going. And what ended up happening was not only did we execute on the $5 million of business that was canceled, find new homes for it. So our retention rate was in the high 90s. Okay.
Wow.
Not only did we do that, I ended up with 4 new producers and 4 new
Oh, that's
support
so
staff.
great.
And we had the best sales year of new sales we've ever had by a
Okay.
factor of 2.
This is so important. And wow, that's incredible. This is how people grow and why there's more opportunity, because I don't know what the percentage is, but a large majority of people will cut back, they will contract, they will ride the storm
Try
out,
to minimize expenses.
and they will die. Yeah,
Mhm.
or they'll barely hang on. There's
Mhm.
tremendous opportunity whenever the world says it's ending. That's
Well,
the time to
like the
step
book
forward.
says, tough times never last, but tough people do.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. The 4 producers that I got, I had one internal that went from being support staff. She wanted to go into production. Another one was my own son wanted to come into the industry
Ah, that's so
from welding.
great.
Yeah. And then another guy that I knew ended up getting fired from the position that he was in, and I knew he was doing great, and it was just a personality conflict, and so I hired him as well. So I ended up with 4 new people, and I'm happy to say they're all doing great this
Ah,
year. And but yeah, I was not planning on that. They were opportunities that were there for a window, and I jumped on them because I knew it would work out well for me. So.
fabulous. I love that kind of mindset. You just have to keep growing and going. And it's true. And it doesn't matter what business it is, anything and everything. Well, Chris, this has been so much fun. You are an absolute delight. And plus, not only is he positive and the insurance guy who will give you hope.
I'll close on this for you. So
Okay.
I also, when I was working as a general agent, uh, got my securities license, and so I also did investing into the market. Now, if you look at anything and follow the market, you're hearing doom and gloom, and you're hearing things are going to take off and go to the moon. So what I always told my clients was this: you better have a plan. Okay, so what is the market going to do? There's only 3 things it can do: go up, go down, or go sideways. Okay, you should have a plan for all 3.
Mm.
What am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if that happens? What am I going to do here or there? And if you don't have a plan for all 3, then you're gambling. So I think we're in a very interesting time. I think the market's going to do something. I have my own personal thoughts on that, but you should probably have a plan on what you're going to do in case of emergency or great times.
Mhm. And we live in a time where there's no lack of resources. There's no lack of information.
Oh
There's
boy.
no excuse anymore for not learning and growing and knowing. And honestly, it's really important to align yourself with people you can trust, like you were saying initially. So when it comes to insurance, and I don't know if Chris is offering his investment advice here or not.
Nope. I retired.
I'm teasing you,
I
but yeah,
specifically retired out of that. I got too busy in the insurance world, and I
yeah,
got out of that in 2015. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'm just playing with you, but
I know. I know.
anyway, so align yourself with the best. And that's honestly what the experiential, and that's another kind of difficult, long thing to say, but the Experiential Experts Alliance is all about. Amazing people who have decades upon decades of experience in a variety of different
Mhm.
industries that all serve the hospitality and specifically outdoor and experiential hospitality. So, um, thank you so much. It is really a pleasure and an honor to have this conversation with you. And I know you're about to head out on vacation, so I will leave you to your 120-page
I'm done with that. I
experience.
already responded on that, so we're good to
Okay.
go. Well, we didn't mess up too much on this, did we?
No, it was so much fun. I really, really enjoy talking with you. And I know you're going to have a great vacation. So I
Yep.
hope you have an Instagram account. You're going to be posting all
I
your
do have an
pictures.
IG account. I have all the stuff. You know, I'm less active on some and more active on others. Facebook at this point in time is kind of my least favorite one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll look for you on Instagram and live vicariously through your joy.
All
Okay.
right. You have a
All
great
right.
day. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You have a great day as well. Bye bye.